It's being called the largest red tape reduction in Canadian history. Provincial leaders are dropping more interprovincial trade barriers in an effort to keep you buying Canadian.
We are creating one agreement, one market, and unlimited opportunity across the country.
That was BC Jobs Minister speaking. Spearheaded by British Columbia, the Canadian Mutual Recognition Agreement lays out standards for thousands of items, making it easier for businesses to sell products across Canada. But there's a glaring omission: food and alcohol. That has many asking why. Now, for a closer look, I'm joined by Stuart True, senior researcher with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Andrea, good morning.
All right, so before we get into what's not included, let's talk about what is included in this agreement. How will it reduce trade barriers for Canadians?
Well, we have a slightly different perspective than the BC minister on this. We actually don't think it's going to have that big an effect on the flow of trade between provinces. The reality is, even before this agreement was signed and negotiated, there were very few barriers to the sale of goods made in one province in other provinces. There are, of course, things like slight differences in safety standards for some products, especially products that are high risk, you know, like when you think about boilers or pipes or that kind of thing, or construction equipment and so on and so forth. And those are still going to remain in place. There's an annex in the agreement that lets provinces regulate for those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, but essentially what the agreement does is it says if you can sell something in one province, mm-hmm. you should be able to sell it in another without having to go through extra testing or extra paperwork, you know, if you're a business. Mm-hmm. But as we've been saying at the CCPA for a while, that's actually, for the most part, a very common across Canada already. So it's going to have a very minor effect on interprovincial trade.
Okay, well, speaking of interprovincial trade, we often heard in the past year how governments are working to break down the barriers so that we can have BC wine in Alberta, for example. But food and alcohol are not included in this. Why not?
Well, this must have been an area that was a bit sensitive for the provinces, and I think there's good reasons for that, right? So food is obviously very close to our bodies and the sense of people's idea of what is safe, right, to eat. They want to know that it's been tested somewhere, right? So there may have been differences of opinion among the provinces on the satisfactory nature of some of the different provincial regulations around food safety. There is, again, just not to make people feel like their food is unsafe. In fact, most provinces do have very strong protections for food, and there's federal protections as well. But the point is, it's such a sensitive area that maybe they felt that they didn't want to go there, that there were maybe too many red flags. And then for other areas too, where they've excluded them, these are highly regulated sectors, right? Like alcohol, like cannabis. These are areas where the provinces felt like this is our responsibility, right, to regulate these in order to protect the public, to protect consumers. So I think those are the only reasons we didn't see food. I don't think the fact that food isn't included is going to have a market effect, a huge effect on interprovincial trade in food products. I think it's just probably a wise thing that they did to take that one a bit slower.
Interesting. All right, so you've given us all the reasons why it's not in the agreement, but do you think that the free flow of alcohol and food will ever happen between provinces?
I do. I think they're working right now on this direct-to-home sales project, right? So the idea is that if you want to get a wine from BC, say I'm in Ontario, right? If I want to get some wine from BC, I'll be able to go online to the winery and click a button and they'll ship it to me, right? It might be a little bit more expensive because shipping heavy things across vast distances can be quite pricey. And that, as I should say right now, is the main barrier to interprovincial trade, is the cost of shipping goods across this vast country. But just to say they're working on that. So I do expect we'll see something, right, by next May that will moderately make it easier to get these products delivered to your home. The reason that they're having trouble with this one, too, is simply because of the way we do regulate the sale of alcohol in the provinces. We know most provinces have, state monopolies that do that. They sell it, in a way that's supposed to have an effect on public health, in terms of taxes. Yeah. And some of those are great outfits, right? So we'll have to see what the ultimate process is for getting those, the wine and the beer and whatnot to your home from other provinces. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to break all of that down. That is Stuart True, senior researcher with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. Thanks again for your time this morning.
Yes. Good morning. Thank you to you.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.